What is going on, guys? Reaper here, and I wanted to make this video about underrated games, in my opinion. So I'm going to be talking about old games, new games, a few and in between. So let's get started. So the first game I want to talk about is Splashdown. Now I'm going to be stating the system that I played them on because I'm not 100% sure with some of these if they were on other systems. Obviously the newer ones are on all the new systems, but for the old ones, just wanted to let you know. So Splashdown was a PS2 game. Essentially, it was Sea-Doo racing or jet skis, however you want to call them. But it was super underrated in my opinion because it's a lot more fun than all of the other like car racing games and stuff like that. The only other one I really played on the PS2 was Need for Speed Underground 2, which was a dope game. But Splashdown 2, super awesome, and has a fantastic soundtrack, just phenomenal. Like, that's one of the best parts about that game. It's almost kind of what got me into the music that I'm in today, and I really love it. Alright, and the next game that I want to talk about is Doom, the 2016, I believe. So, I personally really enjoyed this game, and I feel like it was reviewed positively, and a lot of people who played it loved it, but I don't think as many people got to enjoy it as they should have, because it has a really interesting story, I guess. It's kind of, the story in a way takes a backseat to the gameplay, and that's not a criticism of it. It's just kind of, I mean, it's Doom. Like, if you've played the original, you're killing demons in Mars, or on Mars, so you kind of know what you're getting into. But super awesome gameplay. There's something called glory kills, which essentially, it's contextual, so when they're flashing, you press a button and you just destroy the demons, and it's super fun. And the multiplayer is actually really enjoyable as well. It's arena style, so you have to pick up all your health drops and armor, but you get to create your own classes, and there's a lot of customization features as well, and they ended up actually releasing the DLC for free for all platforms, so that was really cool. So yeah, Doom is an awesome game. The next game I want to talk about is Prey. I think this one came out in 2017. The first one was a launch title for the 360, and it was very odd. Like, I think the story goes, you were a Native American and you're in a bar in the very first scene of the game, and then like an alien abduction happens, and you go into their ship and you get like a Shadow Walker ability and like shoot arrows in shadow. I don't know. It was super weird. I didn't play much of it, didn't finish it. But the new one is essentially kind of like a semi-horror aspect to it, and it's just very interesting to see the different tone that they took, and it was a lot more interesting than I thought. Like I said, I haven't played it, but I'm hoping to after Far Cry 5 and South Park Stick of Truth, or not Stick of Truth, I mean I have to get through that one too, but Fractured But Whole for the Switch, because they're porting it over there. So after that, maybe I'll pick up Prey and give that a go. But that one is underrated in my opinion as well. Not too many people played it because they probably didn't know much about it. Next one I'm going to talk about, somewhat interesting, is Resident Evil 5. Now, this one was the series shift, sort of. So Resident Evils 1 through 3, and just strictly speaking numbers, not the extra ones, were horror for a big majority of it. But starting with 4 is kind of when the tone shifted a little bit. 4 focused on a little bit more of the action side. There was still horror elements to it, but that was kind of, I mean, Resident Evil 4 is one of the most influential third-person shooters of the last, like, when it came out, and for good reason, because it did a lot of kind of different things and that other video games have emulated. So Resident Evil 4 was kind of the tone shift, but Resident Evil 5 was even more of a kind of a far-reaching from that. It definitely still had its creepy factor to it, but it was a lot more focused on action. But it is a lot of fun to play. Like, I was very hesitant to get it, but me and my friend decided to find a co-op game to get, and he recommended Resident Evil 5, so we picked it up for the Xbox One, played through it. It was actually a lot of fun. I was thoroughly surprised with how much fun I had with it because I didn't really expect much from it. I had finished Resident Evil 4 just beforehand, and that one was fun. Very frustrating at times, but it was my first real Resident Evil game that I was playing, so it was fun though. And Resident Evil 7, if I hadn't watched like 7 different gameplay walkthroughs of that game, I would have loved to pick that game up. But and I might in the future, like when the story is a little bit fading away in my mind. But that one was fantastic from what I watched all of it. And yeah, Resident Evil 5 was just fun to me. Next one I'm going to talk about is The Saboteur. Now this was a 360 game that I played, and it takes place in World War II Nazi occupied World War II era, and you're in France, and you play as this kind of revolutionary who doesn't start out as revolutionary, but through different circumstances he ends up getting involved in the revolution against the Nazis. And one of the coolest things about this game, and I haven't really seen it too much emulated in other games, is the fact that it focuses on occupation. So when you're in a Nazi occupied zone, it's all black and white, and there's just like red. So you see like the Nazis uniforms, they have like the red swastika on it, and like when the blood obviously pours out of them, it's red too. But it's such a cool effect, and I really it adds to the atmosphere and the significance of going through these zones, liberating them, and then it goes back to full color. It's just very cool and a really nice touch, and I feel like not as many people got to play this one too. Granted, I don't know too much because I literally picked it up randomly at GameStop one day and I fell in love with it. So yeah, Saboteur is a really awesome game. If you can find it and you have a 360, you should definitely go out and play it actually, just to experience or even just watch gameplay of it, because it's a really cool game. And the last one I'm going to talk about for today is Sleeping Dogs. Now this was one, again, it was relatively well received, but I feel like not as many people got to play this one either, because every time I mention it to people, they're like, oh, like what is that game about? And it's a really cool game where you play as an undercover cop, and essentially you infiltrate the triads in Japan, I believe. But it's super interesting, or maybe it's China, I don't know. But really cool story. It has a lot of really fun gameplay mechanics. It's made by Square Enix, so they even have little DLC costumes for Hitman and Deus Ex and Just Cause. So I really love little touches like that. But super fun gameplay. You can literally open your door and hit people with it, like in your car. You can jump on top of cars. Like, it's just very dynamic. And the DLC, because at first I had it on 360, then I got the definitive edition for Xbox One, and that came with all the DLC, including those costumes and stuff. And they had like Bruce Lee inspired DLC, and it was just super cool, and I love the atmosphere of that game. And you should definitely give it a try if you haven't, or like I said, just watch gameplay of it, because it's a really enjoyable game, and I think it should have gotten more praise. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a good day, guys. Peace out.